All right, welcome everybody. This is Kathy Pike with the Academy for Coaching with Horses, and I want to introduce a very dear friend and colleague of mine, Natalie Marie Collins. And I have invited Natalie on the interview today to actually interview me because I love Natalie, and we have been co-creating now for over a year. What I'm finding and experiencing in the world is that there are all these fabulous young women that are coming up and offering their services to the world. Natalie specializes in human design. If you've never heard of that, it's fantastic. Anyhow, these women are coming up in the world and they're bright lights and they're fun and they know so much more about technology than I do. So when I found Natalie, I felt like I just found a kindred spirit, and then also somebody who I just really think is one of the coolest people I know. So without further ado, I want to introduce Natalie Marie Collins. You can find her at her website, www.nataliemarie.collins.com. And I didn't get the gallery view set up. There we go with the gallery view. Hi, Natalie. How are you?
Oh, good. Oh, I'm so excited to be interacting with you like this. This is so much fun. And for those of you that don't know Kathy, I would like to introduce Kathy to you because she's also this beautiful kindred spirit that if you have not had a chance to experience Kathy, I really invite you to lean into this. So with Kathy, she's an advocate for equine intelligence and the founder of the Academy for Coaching with Horses. She's a speaker, a life coach, artist, nature lover, new thought leader, energy healer, and an international published author. Her books include Life Lessons of the Heart of Horses, How Horses Teach Us About Relationships and Healing. And this is your new one that is coming out in April of 2021. So I want to talk more about that because I'm super excited about this particular book. Oh, yes. And you also have done Horse Spirit Speaks on love, presence, and harmony in a chaotic world, the hope for the heart of horses, and pathways to a radiant self, a journey of a growth and discovery with the chakras. And so as a pioneer in the field of equine facilitating learning and coaching, Kathy has taught these certification programs worldwide. Her work has reached over 19 countries as she has trained others to employ horse as a guide and mentor for the human heart and spirit. Additionally, she works with riders to help them create more confidence and a deeper spiritual connection with their equine partner. It is incredibly gorgeous work that you do, Kathy. So how did you get started in all of this and working with horse as the guide and mentor?
Yeah, it's really, it was quite a journey actually, and it was very serendipitous. I believe in serendipity in a big way. I loved horses all of my life, all of my life. All I wanted to do was to be with horses, but got the no, 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 they're too expensive. We can't do that. They're dangerous. Whatever it was, the messages were no. So then in my 20s, I decided I was very headstrong, still am, but in my 20s, I decided I'd take riding lessons. And I was in Park City, Utah. I was a ski bum. I was taking riding lessons, and the place that I was taking riding lessons, it wasn't a proper arena, all sandy and nice and all that sort of stuff. And I had been back home to Maine on holiday, had come back after 2 weeks. The horse hadn't been ridden. Long story short, I got thrown and dragged. And I write about this in my first book about the horses and hope through the heart of horses. So I got dragged, and it was really traumatic, as you can imagine. I mean, my head was, thank God I had my helmet on. Head was kind of banging on the ground. The hoofs were right next to my head. And luckily that day, my riding instructor told me what to do if you ever get dragged. So I wasn't dragged for a long period of time, but long enough. After that, I, I had to get on another horse just because she wanted me to. And then I got off that horse, I hung up my stuff in the barn, and I left, and I never went back. And I went home and laid in an Epsom salt bath for 2 hours and laid around for 3 days. So left horses at that time. I was probably about 27. And then I moved to Oregon, moved to Boulder, Colorado, and then eventually moved up to Oregon to write my first book, Pathways to a Radiant Self. And it was the day after 9/11. And the beach in Oregon was really quiet. I remember the waves are just kind of coming in and just doing that really lullaby sort of movement. And the water was super sparkly. And down the beach came this woman bareback, ponying another horse, a younger horse trailing behind her. And I could feel the hoof beats in the sand, and it was breathtaking. And it was such a dichotomy or a juxtaposition of where we were in that time with everything on the East Coast happening, and just this intensity to see this beautiful movement and the sheer beauty of the freedom that this woman was expressing. Of course, her hair was flowing back, and the waves and the light and the sparkles in the ocean. It was just amazing. So anyways, trying to shorten my story a little bit, I befriended her. I ended up working with a horse named Hope. That's why the book is called Hope from the Heart of Horses. And when I was working with Hope, I actually was working with a horsemanship fellow, and we were in the round pen together. And he was asking me to do some movements with this horse. And she just came up in her energy, just in all of the energy of who she is and who she was in that moment. And I was in the center of the round pen, and I just went right out of my body. The energy was so big and so powerful and so pure, I couldn't be present with that energy. And in that moment, I realized that every situation that I was in, whether it was a car repair, it was the dentist, it was somebody advising me on anything in my life, and in particular men, but anybody of authority, that I could not stay with them. I would go dissociative and then just do whatever they wanted me to do. I would get small, I would go away. I couldn't hold my own ground and hold my power with them. And I realized I was doing this in many, many areas of my life. And I realized, wow, I was a life coach then. And this was, a good, oh God, 20 plus years ago. And I realized that I had been receiving coaching about this and had understood a lot of it. But in the moment, being with the horse, having the visceral experience of what my energy system was doing in relationship to that horse, it made the change for me. I was able to feel it and integrate the habit or the realization of the habit that was non-productive in a way that I wasn't doing in conversation. And then after that, I was able to change the game. I was able to change how I was interacting with that horse. And I was able to develop the skills to stay more present with these mares that have really big energy, and to stay in my body and to be more present. And it didn't happen quite overnight, but through being with horses, I've developed it's completely different how I can be with horses now compared to that moment. And of course, that's changed also how I show up in my human to human relationships. So that's how I got started. It was,
Wow.
two big kind of situations, to be honest with you. And then after that, this was, how many years ago was this? This was over 20 years ago. And then I started Googling around, and I found a few people that were doing it, and then bam. It wasn't bam. And then I was like, oh, well, this is cool work, but it's not for me. It's not for me. I started sending all my clients, oh, go do this work. It's really cool. You'll really love it. But no, I'm not gonna, it's too expensive. I'm not going to do that. Who am I to do that? Or, I was just too scared, and I was a little depressed at the time, actually. So I couldn't take that ball and run with it. And I see this actually a lot with different people, whether it's fear or hesitancy about what the journey's going to be. Yeah, that was me.
That's an incredible start to your journey with the horses. Like, in a sense, I feel like it's almost this initiation into that, and starting to get present in your body, and how you're able to see that with other people when they're out of their body, and helping them get in to their body through the work that you've done, because you've been there.
Yeah.
Because the scary moments, and what a better person than you to be able to facilitate that for other people. So this, how you got started and getting dragged and being able to start working with the mares like you did, or you have, what other pivotal moments along your journey really got you into knowing that this was the work that was for you?
I think it was actually when I went and got my first experience of the work. I kept sending my clients, and then one of my clients said, "No way, Kathy, you're sending me to go do this. You're coming with me." And I'm forever indebted to Joan for that. Joan hauled me off to the program, and I write about my first experience with Amigo in my book, Hope from the Heart of Horses. And I knew right after that, that whatever it took, I was doing this work. And I did crazy things, like I sent proposals to people to try to raise the funds. I didn't have any money. I was a life coach living in Boulder, Colorado, and driving a Subaru, 1981 Subaru. I didn't have any money at all. So I put together this proposal to ask people for loans. I just looked at every way that I could possibly raise money. And then I started to paint. And then somebody came along. I started to do these really big paintings. I was just like, okay, I'm going to do these really big abstract paintings. I started selling them. And that was crazy. This guy just kind of popped in, and even years later, he's like, "I want some more of those abstracts." I was like, yeah, whatever. And then I would get these calls, and serendipitous things would happen. And I was really clear, because I would say, okay, universe, God, powers that be, I want to do this. So send me the opportunities, or send me the money, or send me, help me with this. And so when those opportunities came in, I took that money and I put it into the fund, and I wouldn't spend it for anything else. And then the last thing that I did was I had a treasure sale, and basically it was a garage sale, but I called it a treasure sale, and I invited all my friends, and I made them drink wine, and then they bought all my stuff. I mean, I sold my belongings in order to step into doing this work and get on the path of the work. So, yeah. And sometimes I think, and you know this because you've done radical things, sometimes we really have to step beyond what we know, and start to let go of things, and start to behave differently in order to create what we want, right? You've done that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what an incredible path to start taking, in that knowing of direction for you, and how important this work is to get it out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you've been at it for a while now, and you haven't lost steam with it. You are just going because this work has been so important to you, and to get it out. And so along your journey with this and with the horses, what has taken the most courage from you?
Yeah, I would say I was, in my younger years, I was a jumper, and I'm still pretty much of a jumper diver, just dive in, it'll work itself out. Woo. So I dove into this work, and I dove in pretty big. And what I find now when I'm teaching people how to do the equine facilitated learning work is that people are either coming in with expertise in helping humans, or they're coming in with a lot of horse experience. And then some people have a lot of both, or a little bit of both. I was actually more coming in from working with humans. That's what I had done all my life. So I experienced a tremendous amount of vulnerability coming into the horse world. And it was twofold. It was first coming into the horse world with not that much experience, and needing to learn a lot, and not knowing who to turn to, because what this work stands for is very different than what traditional horsemanship is. Very different. So there was this gap between who I wanted to be with horses and how I was being taught to be with horses.
Mm.
So there was a big stretch there. And then I had a huge stretch when I got my Mustang, my wild horse. And he was wild. They say 5.5, but I think he was a little bit older than that when he came in. So he'd been out in the wild for a long time, and he was a stallion, gelded late. So here I was, I'd only had my first horse, Moon, who was a ranch horse. So he was well-trained, wasn't push button, but he was well-trained, very intelligent horse. He's an amazing horse. And then a year later, I got this Mustang, this wild horse. And I really didn't have, I'm a diver. I didn't have the horsemanship skills to really have this horse. And I worked with many people who let me know that. I can't tell you how many trainers actually said to me, you might want to consider replacing this horse. This might not be the best match for you. I'm not sure if your skill levels are really a match for what this horse is bringing you. And so I experienced a lot of vulnerability, a lot of, well, I'm going to just share this because it's coming up in this moment. I actually experienced a lot of shame, and having to work through past shame of not getting it right, not doing it right, not having the skills. Every trainer that I would go to would do things differently. So no matter what I learned from the last trainer that I would demonstrate, it would be wrong. So there was just this continual like, oh my God, what's happening here with this horse? And then, there was also this struggle of having these two horses and being in a very traditional world of horses, and having this new work that I wanted to present to the world and that I wanted to offer and that I felt so strongly about, and having to deal with all of my fears that popped up around that, and a lot of judgment that came at me because of the work that I was doing with the horses, because it was so different. Yeah. I'm not sure if that answered your question, but that's what was coming through.
Beautiful. So with this learning that you had to do with this wild horse and like this, you must have had so much stuff coming at you with all of the judgments and whatnot, because you were paving this new path for what it really means to work with horses in the way that you knew in your core that you wanted to and needed to work with the horses. So how did you get started facilitating the sessions with people? Like, how did you start doing that work with other people, like bringing in other humans to do human to human and human to horse sessions?
Yeah. That came really easy for me. After being a life coach, I just started bringing people in. I had my clients that I was already working with. Why don't you come and work with the horses? And I had been a life coach for a long time, so I knew how to have a coaching conversation, which, as you and I know, there's a lot of people out there now saying that they're a coach, and maybe they've had 30 hours of training. And so the whole concept of a life coach and coaching is a little bit different than when I went through my training. My philosophy is a coach is somebody who leads with a lot of questions and leads with a lot of curiosity. And you know this, you're a coach, that you really want to bring out the wisdom that's in a person and to help them understand and see themselves in a way they haven't before, so that they can make choices in their life that's based on their value system and on their own authenticity, not what the world has told them to do. So it was really easy for me to invite my clients to come in and to start experiencing this work with the horses. And because the horse is such a powerful mirror, the horse can be a lot of things. Often the horse is a mirror. They can be a sponge. They can be a conduit for healing. I found that as long as I was partnering with my horse and I was really energetically connected with the horses that I was using, that my clients would experience really, really powerful awakenings, powerful revelations, because of what the horse was bringing to them at that energetic level.
Mm.
And then also because of the dialogue that I could provide them to lead them through their body, to lead them into a deeper sense of their internal energetic landscape so that they could see what patterns they were allowing that weren't working for them, just like I did with Hope in the round pen. It's like, whoa, here's a pattern and this is how it's showing up in my body. And now that I can feel it at that deep level of sensory awareness, I have the power to change that. And this is the part that I'm so passionate about, is bringing people into their power at that sensory level, because that's what I see that the horses are doing 24/7. They're so deeply within their body, and they're connected to their sensory awareness. They're connected to how the energy around them is flowing through their bodies, and what they need to do or not do as they interact with the entire world around them. And as humans, I think we've cut that off. We've individualized ourselves too much. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, so gorgeous. And I know, since being connected with you and working with you, every time I meet a horse, I look at horses so dramatically different now. And it's this beautiful connection that happens that I can see just with feeding them grass. Like, how can I be more present with you and allow that to come through with a horse I've only just met?
Yeah.
And so that in and of itself, like what you're describing with your journey and then bringing this to clients and starting to naturally facilitate this work, you have these deep moments of courage within each of these evolutionary phases that you started doing. So when you started facilitating this work with humans and your clients, what took the most courage?
All of it. Oh my God, what took the most courage? Yeah, people have told me often, God, you got a lot of courage. And I don't know if it's really courage or stupidity, really. My dad used to joke about that sometimes, is this courage or is it just plain stupidity? Because, I'd throw myself into stuff all sorts of times. And I think that actually there's a little bit of both, because I've always been a person willing to take a chance in order to have my dream. I just have always been that person. Maybe not with everything, but definitely with this. So every step along the way has taken a tremendous amount of courage. I would say that the horses have taught me so much about being more courageous and being more still in my courage and finding the place of power within courage versus maybe I was an extreme athlete, so I would do all sorts of things on mountainsides and down rivers, right? It was, and some of those were probably pretty stupid. And I got lucky. But I think it takes courage because there's such a high level of vulnerability, and people tend to stray away from vulnerability. You know this, you work with people all the time. People want to move away from vulnerability. And I think that a person's life really changes when they say, I want to grow and I want to grow my whole life. And in order for me to grow, it means that I have to embrace vulnerability.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not that I'm an expert on it, because we talked about, I've got a book coming out in April. And so the day I had to send it in, I was freaking out. I'm just like, I don't know if I want to do this. This is my fourth book. And yet that vulnerability still comes up. What are people going to say? What are people going to think? It's all the unknown. And that's a wave to ride like no other wave. And if we look at a horse, the horses are vulnerable so much of the time. We do all kinds of things with them. We put them into trailers And we take them to a place that they don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going to happen to them. They don't know what's going to be expected of them. They don't know if they're going to come back home or not. We ask them to do a lot of things that they just don't know what's at the other end of it. But yet so many of them, not all of them, but so many of them are willing to be on that journey. So I see horses as embracing vulnerability on a day-to-day level, which to me gives them quite a bit of courage. And I think that as human beings, we can bring that into our own experience. I mean, even when I look at Corazon, the horse was in the wild, in the mountains, and imagine what it would be like to be him and be living free in the lupins and the green grass and the starry nights and the silence, and then to come into the human world filled with metal and people yakking. And not just a few people, but a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah, that's vulnerable, and that takes a lot of courage. So yeah, did I answer that question? I'm not sure.
Beautiful. And also with the vulnerability, with the piece with your book that's coming out. Let's see. I'm going to find the name of it.
Oh, it's Life Lessons.
Life Lessons. That's what it is. Okay. So your Life Lessons book, you've shown me the cover of this.
Mm.
And this is a gorgeous book. Will you share the cover with us so we can all get a sneak peek?
Actually, let me see if I can pick it up here. So the thing about this cover is that Tony Stromberg gave me I love this cover. I'm just in love with this cover. Yeah. So original photo, Tony Stromberg. And then, of course, the publishing company, which is Skyhorse Publishing, they put all the text on, and I worked with them on the colors of the text. They had a pink like my shirt. I said, no, that will not work for me. It works for my shirt, but not for a book cover. Yeah.
It's just gorgeous. I love how the horses emulate this heart shape in a sense as well. Like this is, and they're also in this vulnerable moment together.
Yeah. 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 It's a beautiful, beautiful image. Stunning.
It really is. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you've talked about this a lot, but for those of you that are new to Kathy, some of the things that you talked about with your ranch horse Moon, who has been in a sense domesticated, and then Corazon, who is your wild horse, what a difference working with the two horses must have been. But something that you also talk about is conditioned versus unconditioned when it comes to horses. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah. It was kind of an interesting process because Moon was my first horse, and he's a big 16.2 hand quarter horse. He's got a really big, long, flat back and big horse, beautiful buckskin, really well conditioned. Not that he doesn't have opinions, but he's very well conditioned. He's very well trained. And then I get this Mustang who's, he's like almost a pony size. He's, maybe 15 hands and just stout as can be and feral and wild. I mean, I couldn't even touch him when I first got him. And so it was really Corazon that helped me to see how deeply conditioned all of us are. And I'm not saying that he's not conditioned. He's just conditioned differently. And he's conditioned more at an instinctual level. So he's conditioned to react when he smells the mountain lion or feels those predatory eyes coming, kind of up above on a cliff or whatever, or if there's a sound in the distance, or maybe the thunder or lightning's coming in. He's in tune to the environment at that instinctual level. And that is actually conditioned, right? How could it not be? We're conditioned by our environment. So that's hardwired in him to be reactive, to be quick to respond and to take action so that he can survive. That's what wild horses do.
Yeah.
But the domesticated horses are different in that, number one, their lineage has been conditioned for human purposes for many more years, right? Well, for a lot of more years. Not that that's very good English, but so here we have domesticated horses that have been bred for show, have been bred for this, have been bred for that, or they just come from, DNA, the genealogy of those horses, that they have been in the hands of man and that they have been asked to do things for man for many generations. So their sensitivity level is quite different than a wild horse. It's almost like when I got Corazon, I realized that I had almost two different species. I had two completely different horses that I was working with. And one was wild and feral and responsive and reactive and opinionated, and he's strong and he's free and he's, he's just bold and he knows who he is and nobody's going to mess with him. And he has taught me to be an advocate for his intelligence. He taught me how to be an advocate for equine intelligence, because I had to stick up for him in the human world because people were not understanding him. But then on the flip side is this domesticated ranch horse, incredibly intelligent, right? But a whole different energy. And so Moon came into more authenticity through this work. Somebody asked me the other day in my online level 1 class, they asked me, well, okay, can I use my horse for riding and can I use my horse for this work? And I said, well, you certainly can, but you need to be really aware when you do something like that, because when we ask a horse to be a teacher for a human being, what we're saying is, you get to be a horse. You get to be who you are. I'm not going to ask you to do anything for me except for engage with this person if you want to or not. That is even up to you. The horse just gets to be a horse. And so if you invite and ask the horse to really start to show up, one that's really domesticated and has been trained and trained and trained, and then you say, hey, guess what? You get to be who you are now. You get to do whatever you want. And they go, hey, that's kind of cool. I'm liking that. They get to come back to their authenticity at a deeper level. And then you ask them to go for a trail ride and they're like, well, I'm going to have a lot of opinions here too. And like, what are we doing here? Are we teaching? Are we in a round pen session, or are we going for a ride? Like you're asking your horse to wear a lot of hats, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a really fascinating exploration, for me it has been, at least, of, well, what is authenticity? That word gets popped around all the time here and there in personal growth workshops. And, I always ask people when they come into the workshops live with me, so how many of you feel like you're living an authentic life? And anybody who answers over 50%, I realize, yeah, they probably have quite a bit of work to do. And then the ones that are, say, like 30 or 40%, I'm like, yeah, they're really aware. Right? Because we think we're more authentic than what we really are. It's like, I thought I was more in my body than what I really was until I got with horses. And the horses really help us to see those when we're being inauthentic. They want a leader who's authentic. They want a leader who's congruent. And they really can be powerful mirrors for us and help us to come back home to ourselves. So between Moon and Corazon, I had a pretty steep learning curve, actually, and a pretty deep exploration of really what is conditioning and what is authenticity. And do we ever get to escape any of it? And that it's really not possible to escape any of it, but it's really possible to see, where's our conditioning come from, and do we choose to hang on to that conditioning anymore? We can be that horse that's put into the round pen that really says, this is the space that is sacred and you get to be exactly who you are. No worries. We can be that horse if we give ourselves permission to. Yeah. But it can be an intense journey, like with Corazon, because he's so hardwired on that instinctual level. There's just certain things that he digresses on. So trailer loading, I can get him trailer loading, but then if I don't do it for a year, he digresses and he becomes very instinctual around it again. And for him, it is not a joyful place. Yeah. So his hardwired conditioning of instincts pops up and says, no, that'll be a no today. Yeah, I write a little story about this in the book, actually. That's the one I'm like, I don't know, I want people to read that story.
Well, now that just makes me want to go read it.
Right, I should have kept my mouth shut.
No, it's great. So, Kathy, you now live on a beautiful ranch in Colorado with your horses. You're able to facilitate these courses and classwork and workshops and all kinds of things at your ranch when, you know, the timing is right with everything. And so you've also transitioned to having your certification courses online and you've done it beautifully. So you have been able to ebb and flow through these times and what it takes to really live this beautiful, authentic life that you're living. So with that, will you give us a little peek into how you achieved living your dreams with the horses?
Yeah, well, I think we've touched on a bit of it already, in that I had to really own my courage and engage with courage. It's hard to create something like this unless you've got all your lucky stars lined up. If you are, if you're not able to be courageous, if you're not willing to take a chance, if you're not willing to learn new things, if you want to be safe, you know, that's what vulnerability and courage is about, stepping out of your safety zone. So I think that I've been able to create this because I've been willing to do that. I think also I've been able to create this because I believe in serendipity, and I believe in listening to, if I start to ponder something and it starts to really show up in my life, that I really listen to that and then I take actions on it. It doesn't mean that I always follow through and all that, but I realize the synchronicity of things and I take actions on it. You know, I have a lot of students that I interview people before they come into the class because I want to make sure people are going to be happy with the class and that it's a good fit for both of us. And people will say things like, yeah, you know, I bought your book 4 years ago and I didn't read it. I put it up on the shelf, and then I saw this other thing on the internet, and then all of a sudden I came across your website, and then I realized, oh, your book is on my shelf, and oh, I guess I better like take the next step here. Or people have told me my book's fallen out of the bookcase and hit them on the head or fallen on the floor, and that's what, you know, thank God they're listening to serendipity there, right? Hopefully they're not getting, you know, their heads hit too often. But I really feel like when people want to create something, and in particular with this work, there's two things that happen. People feel the potency of the power of the horse to change our consciousness. And so on one hand, there's this deep passion and desire to be on this journey with horses because of their beauty and their inner sense of freedom and their big hearts and their healing powers. And they're magnificent creatures to be in relationship with. And then on the other hand comes up the unconscious aspect of any human being when we're about ready to step into something that's going to bring change. And that unconscious aspects wants to pull us back, keep us small, keep us safe, keep us in knowing, living what we know. And that's the voice that will bring up all of, well, I'm not worthy. I'm not good enough to do this work. Oh, horses are too expensive. I mean, this is all conditioning that we've put on ourselves or society has put on us. And so I think in order to achieve the dream, we have to understand our own conditioning. We have to understand what's authentically ours and what we want to have and experience. You know, since I was a kid, I always wanted to be around horses. I wanted to experience horses. Riding didn't work out for me, but that doesn't matter. I don't even ride my horses now. It's not what the relationship is about for me. So I had my dream in this hand, and then on this side, and then on this side is all of the unconscious aspects of me that could possibly sabotage that dream. And the difference with the people who create the dream and those that don't are the people that understand the energy that sabotages, understand the voices that hold them back, that make them small, that make them not take action, that makes them not step into what we're here to do, which is to explore and to experience and to let whatever lights us up be part of our lives, because that's the great adventure. It is about becoming one with whatever it is that lights you up. And people often, especially with the horse work, when they haven't been around horses, they'll have this tug of war. And to me, it takes courage to stay over here. It takes vulnerability to stay over here. It takes awareness not to just go back to getting small and just doing what you're always doing. And the person who does do that, you know, often, and maybe it's not the right path, but more than likely, they start to experience other things that are just not as pleasant than taking the risk. It's not that it's all unicorns and roses on the other path of saying, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to go for. We all know that. We're all adults. It's just a matter of how much does a person want to live? And do they want to run free like a wild horse on top of a mountain and feel the energy of life and feel the vibrancy that we're here to actually experience? Or do they want to shelter in a corner of the world and stay small? And of course, there's all kinds of things in between there, right? But I think the horses are asking us to run free. I think the horses are asking us to come deep inside of ourselves and to find that place of our own knowing of who we are in this collective so that we can contribute our light and we can contribute to the collective in a very authentic, genuine way. They want that for us because they know that if we go there, we'll have a lot more peace and harmony. Yeah.
Wow. This is incredibly inspiring, Kathy.
Well, you need to get your butt over here to Colorado.
I totally do. I know, I'm in Utah, so I'm like, I'm coming. I got to go over the mountain range.
Got to clean up that thing that's hanging out there and making us all wear masks.
No. So with that, thank you for sharing that incredibly deep inspiration for just helping getting us into the space of possibility. And with that, what is it that you find most inspiring about facilitating the equine facilitated learning sessions?
Yeah. So I think when you introduced me, you mentioned artist. And I'm like I'm an artist in hiding. I'm just coming out now, I think, right? But my whole entire life, two things I've wanted, horses and art. Oh my goodness. I just spaced out. What was your question again? Now I remember. Why am I talking about art? Okay.
You got lost in the dream of art.
I want to go finish that painting. The thing, so I love variety and I love exploring. I mean, I've traveled, I was an extreme athlete, I've done all sorts of different sports. And I never could keep a job, right? Because I just get bored. I'd be like, let's go to the next town or the next ski town or the Grand Tetons, whatever. So when I came to the work with horses, everything changed for me. And the reason is because when I'm working with the horses and I'm out in nature and I'm guiding other people to be more like a horse, and I'm offering them to go deep into their bodies and to be listening, and to also be listening to the sounds of the birds and feeling the breeze on their face and coming into real time. This is what we do with the horses. We come into this real time place. And in those moments when a horse is present and a client is getting that present, and then I'm there as the witness and the guide, it is magic. It is something that you can't ever create again. And this is why I love it so much. It is like art unfolding. It's live art unfolding. It's a dance that's unfolding. And there's not that much of it that you can really plug into place and say, this is going to happen and that's going to happen and that sort of thing. Because again, we're working with a live being that's giving feedback, that's giving opinions, that's giving suggestions, that's offering healing, that's offering their grounded presence. So every session is this wild, sometimes wild, empowering dance. Other times it's a very sacred, deep, profound connection and communion with the essence of horse and the essence of all of life. It's like time stands still. There's actually a shifting. It's like this shamanic journey that happens with the horses. And of all the things that I do to create what I've created in the world, it's kind of amazing because I do it for these few minutes that can happen in a session, because they're so potent and they're so powerful and they're so real. They're so real that I can't help but keep coming back to it. There is a transcendence that happens, and it is like being in an artistic expression and beyond even the artistic expression. But that's the best way to describe it, because there's a flow. There's something beyond what is on the physical realm coming through. And that's the style of work that I really, really, really love. Even when I'm working with people in leadership, there's an essence of that. There's an essence of the uncovering of that true, authentic part of that person, that horse is just, the horses will always give the person maybe not what they're wanting, but what they're needing. And there's a magic about it, and there's an unexpectedness about it. And yeah, it's really potent and it's really, really powerful. And because I'm not fluffy, it works for me. I mean, they're beautiful. They're amazing creatures. They take us to the depths of who we are, if we are willing to allow that, and if we want that. And we don't always have to go super deep either. I mean, I want people to be like, oh my God, that work is really super deep. I don't want to go there. It can be whatever anybody wants it to be. I just really love the really deep, transcendent experiences. And they could only be maybe 4 minutes of a session, but it's so potent. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I'm really chatting now, but anyways, they used to call me Chatty Cathy. This summer we did all this filming to go online. And so I am gifted that I have this beautiful lady, Maddie, who works for me, taking care of the horses. And I'm like, okay, well, you're 30 years old. You must know all about how to use an iPhone. And so she started filming me, and she started doing all these wonderful things. And so then there were just a few of us that could do the session. So when I put together the One with Horse program, that program offers all these ways that you can come into communion with your horse. So for several of the sessions, I used myself. And it was this really crazy, amazing gift that it was unexpected to come out of something like this virus, in that I was being filmed, and a lot of them are with Moon, but I was being filmed with my horses. And I was having all of these experiences that my clients have, and that I actually hadn't had for a while because I'd been so focused on providing the healing for others. Moon I swear that that horse is so smart. I swear he knew he was being filmed. He just kept showing up and doing these amazing things and providing us with exactly what we needed to convey the power of the work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is, oh, that's so beautiful. I love hearing about that. And glad that you got some work in for yourself as well. So with this, so much of what I'm hearing is that you are showing people a completely new way of living. And within this work, you're also teaching people how to be a facilitator of this work.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I think I've been teaching people how to facilitate the work for years. I knew right away that that was part of what I wanted to do. I love empowering other coaches and other individuals, teaching them the skills. I teach the mind body method, which I feel is such an integral part of the communication and energetic exchange between a human and a horse. So a lot of what I'm teaching the facilitators is how to be more body centered and how to come into their bodies at a deeper level. And so the benefit, maybe unexpected for a lot of facilitators, is that they do a lot of their own healing and a lot of their own growth work with their horses as they learn these different tools and different ways to focus their mind, thus focus their body and open up energy and follow energy flows in a different way. And so what happens when we get on to the journey with horse in this way, or in a way that allows more reciprocal communication between both beings, is that the way that we live changes. The horse is very much has a feminine approach to life. It's a animal in the yin energy. And you know, from all the work that you do with humans are very much in the yang energy. We're very masculine, especially in the United States. We're a very masculine culture. And one of the invitations that happens when you decide to work with horses in this way is that one shifts their consciousness from that more yang state into the yin state. And that's not just a flip of a pancake, right? It's not like just turning a coin over. It's a process. It's a process of discovering oneself at a whole different level. And it's a process of engaging in the world or with the world at a whole different level. And it's a never ending process, like who I am now compared to who I was when I first started. And when I first started, I thought I was really body centered. I thought I was really intuitive, and I was to a degree, but compared to who I am now, after being with the horses so much and practicing these tools with the horses, it's a whole different thing. So yes, I'm teaching people how to do the work, and then I'm teaching them how to live the way of the horse. It's not a linear process. It's not a head-oriented process. It's a more circular. Horses are very circular beings. They're very flowing beings. And so when we learn to live their way in the world, we have to adapt to that approach. And that's a shift in consciousness. It's been a huge shift in consciousness for me. And I'm still learning it as I'm stepping more and more into being an artist. I'm having to engage more of that. So it's a journey, and it's a powerful journey, and it brings you home to your authenticity. Yeah. And then at the same time, you're helping other people to come back and to heal the past and to move into their brilliant, authentic self and future. Yeah.
Oh, what incredible work you're doing in the world.
Mm.
And with that, you have your level 1 facilitator program.
Yeah. Yep. So when COVID came, it was, oh my God, I had all these classes scheduled with all these people. I mean, everybody's been affected. So woe is me, but woe is everybody. And there's the silver lining, right? So anyways, I'm going to make this story super short. I took off a month and I was feeling really good. I was hiking, I was doing some artwork. I was like, this is really great. Okay, I'll start working soon. And then it was like, oh, that's not going to happen. And I very quickly realized that this isn't a short period of time. This is not just something that I'll want. We're not going back is what I realized. It's like, okay, we're not going back. I need to adapt. I need to be like my Mustang. I need to adapt to a brand new world, one that I don't know about. And so for years, as I traveled around the world, people would ask me, please, please put your programs online. And I'd be like, no, 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 no. One, because you know me really well, Natalie, I didn't want to deal with technology. It's really because of you that I'm here doing this. You do realize that, right? You've helped me to have all these breakthroughs with my technology. Natalie's my go-to gal for Natalie, help. I can't figure it out. So people would be asking me, I say, no, you can't learn this work online. It's impossible. Well, then I realized, okay, I'm going to have to go online. And it was a huge undertaking because I tend to over deliver and I'm a bit of a perfectionist, and we did all this videoing. I mean, I'm so proud of my level 1 online program, and I'm moving into doing the level 2 now. And I've had, I think 34 people go through it since August, and really everybody's really very pleased with it. So what happened was I realized I couldn't keep living the way life was, and I had to make a change, and I had to step into putting it online. And the result of that is that I think it's almost a better way to teach people. I mean, obviously, in my certification program, at some point, I need to be with people to really see what they're doing and to feel good about giving them that piece of paper. But what happens is with the online level 1 is that people, number one, they get a little bit at a time. Mm-hmm. Where, you know, when I go to a program, if it's 6 days, by day 4, I think it's scientifically proven that after day 3, people can't take in as much. So they start to shut down. And my programs were 6 days because I didn't want to have people travel a ton of times to see me. Well, now what's happening is that they're just getting a little bit every week. And then they go out and they practice it with their horse. And then they see how their horses are responding to the communication, to this whole nonverbal energetic exchange. And so then they start to do their own work with their own horses. Their horses are getting ready to do the work with other humans. And then they bring in people and they're starting to practice the sessions right there at their house. So they get to get it set up. They're working with their people that they know. They're working with their horses. It's just ended up being this beautiful format. Excuse me. And then on top of it, I have all this stuff on video. Yeah. So they can go back and look at the video and say, you know, I think there was a piece that I missed in this one area. Like, what was that? Or I need to correct this or whatever. And they can just go right into their membership area and look at stuff, download things again. There's audios, videos. It's really cool. It's really cool. So nice. I feel like it's the beginning of a bit of a legacy for me as far as this can live forever now. And I don't have to be here for people to benefit from it. Not that I don't want to be here, but.
Love it. So if somebody wants to sign up for your level 1 certification, how would they go about doing that?
Go ahead.
So is it at your own pace, or do you have it to where it's everybody goes in through groups? Like, how do you have that set up for people?
Yeah, I found that I started it with 8 weeks, and then I over deliver. So people were like, wow, this is a lot for 8 weeks. So then I stretched it to 10 weeks. So there's 2 times that it's a little bit of a rest, and it's all I can do not to add more stuff to the whole thing. So they go through in 10 weeks, but every week they have the opportunity to meet with me on the phone for hour and a half. Just depends on how many people are on the calls, and they can ask me any question that they want. They can unpack what's happened in their sessions. And they come in, they go through it. And then if they want to continue to have the calls, they can do that. They can then, after they do level 1, they can sign up and come into the level 2. So it's really creative.
Okay.
Every once in a while, like during the holidays, I'm like, okay, we're shutting down for 2 weeks. See you, at the beginning of the year. So
if somebody wanted to get started right away, how would they do that?
They would go to my website, the coachingwithhorses.com website, and go under certification. And there's a link for the level 1 online. And they just click on that link. There's a page, read the page, and then a person would click on the blue button, which takes them into a place where they schedule an appointment with me, and then they fill out an application so I can get a sense of who they are before we talk, and we can maximize our time together.
Beautiful. So will you put the link to that under this video?
If you teach me how to.
Yes, of course I will.
I'll have Tracy do it.
We'll put a link to the certification class underneath the video for you.
Yes, Natalie.
Kathy, this has been an incredibly beautiful conversation with you. I loved every minute of it. Thank you for inviting me on to talk to you about all of this.
Well, thank you, Natalie. And you know how much I love conversing with you, and we always have good giggles. And you've been a big part of bringing this out into the world. You've been a great support for me, and I really appreciate your presence in the world. And if anybody's interested in human design, you want to check out Natalie. So she'll help you get deconditioned. So great fun. And maybe I can return the favor to you sometime, huh?
Oh, I would greatly appreciate it. So this has been great, Kathy. Thank you for bringing me on and having this conversation. And we hope that you, the viewer, has enjoyed it as much as we have.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Natalie, for your time and energy with this. And please, everybody, if the horse is speaking to you, step on the journey, learn the way of the horse, and have the richness and the beauty of life that is yours to have. You're worthy of it, and they want you. They need you, and the world needs you right now. So thank you. Thank you, Natalie.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.